So I
already
can go ahead and land there,
is
and you
you
can
need to be
continue to
right.
talk to me
You need
about
to be right.
something
You need
that.
to be right. So,
that
like I said, because you landed. So, like I said, okay, the reason why the Bible was referenced is because of the original question asked to me. I didn't have a problem with leaving it out. So, what you're stating should be directed towards the person that asked me a two-part question.
There was a question by the gentleman who asked her, are you speaking about biology or are you speaking of some form of doctrine? She specifically said both, and she said the Bible. So, in saying the Bible, the point that she referenced, and then he uses a portion that she referenced, and then she's like, oh, that's one portion of the Bible. That completely negates itself. That's ridiculous. She needs to be consistent. If you're going to bring up something and say that it's the Bible, and then he uses a portion of it, it's just complete contradictory to then say, to pick and choose which portion of what she referenced she will allow. I land there.
It's interesting. Like again, we make up words because we want to. You like all you have to do is let people talk long enough. And that's what I do. I'm not going back and forth with you because you're wrong, and I don't want to take your money either because I don't need it. However, again, she used two different examples, and there's no point in trying to nail her down because unfortunately she's right. And what I think is that a lot of women have an aversion to using the words they need to use to prove points because when they don't agree with something, and that's what we're seeing tonight.
Point it out specifically. So let's do this
I
because I want
just
my $50. I want my
sorry.
$50. Go to Webster right now. Everything that I said is a fact. When
It's
you
not.
look up the definition, aversion is included. When you look up the context of aversion as it relates to misogyny, it relates to biasness. So we can put the money on it to make it fun. I don't really care what you need or what you don't need. It was my comment. But all of the things that I have said, so anybody who is listening, fact check that. Literally Google Webster definition of misogyny. Aversion will be included, and then look at the context of what aversion means to the word misogyny.
And then, okay, even if we'll say you're wrong, that's fine. But I'll pretend like you're right. And if you use what's your definition to what I said, then you see that it's not based on if rooted in misogyny because it wasn't about the gender, which misogyny is. So you're wrong again. And again, you're welcome to letting me keep your $50.
So let's just do it. Anybody want to fact check this? Because I do want my $50. I would love to have a couple of drinks.
Can I just
That was to
mention
you.
really quick that I don't know what Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, but I do recall something in the Bible saying that every man should have one wife, and like one wife, one woman to each her own husband, something like that. But so I'm lost on where you're trying to say that the Bible is allowing these type of
Because I remember
relationships.
the Bible talking about wives and concubines or something like that.
Well, can
Okay,
I interject here really
go
quickly?
ahead.
So one, polygamy is allowed in the Bible as akin to slavery was allowed in the Bible. So when people like to
We can't
argue,
hear you.
uh,
You
Yes,
can you
can't hear
hear
her.
me?
you can't hear her.
Oh, you can't
Oh,
hear me? Okay.
okay.
I'm like, so when we like to argue polygamy, I always say, well, then let's argue slavery as well if we want to go off of what was allowed, right, during those times.
The
So while
discussion.
polygamy was allowed, right, it was not optimal, and every story of polygamy had negative context to it, right? And then people always go back to the point of creation was the origination of Adam and Eve before sin. So I don't believe that it's in a man's nature to have multiple women. I believe sin is in every human's nature because of the fall, right? Which is what the Bible says, going back to Genesis. So all's that to say, right, is that people are going to choose how they want to live life and how they want to sin, because doing that is that, because you're supposed to be married, which is actually polygamy, right? You were married, you had a contract. In Jewish, even concubines had contracts, and it meant you have a certain level of protection and provision by the person who you were sleeping with. Most people are not arguing actual polygamy. They're arguing whoredom, as Melanie stated. That's from a man and a woman's perspective, because they're not saying they want to be married to someone and provide and have a relationship for life with them, right? They're saying they want to have unauthorized sex with multiple people, whether that be a man or a woman. So I just think that to the whole thing about provision, kings were not to multiply wives for themselves, according to the Bible, Deuteronomy 17. I forget which verse it's in there. And priests also were not allowed to have, they weren't supposed to have multiple either, because the bloodline was guaranteed through the man. And in the New Testament, just to connect this all for you Jesus, people, we are supposed to be a priesthood if you are a believer in Jesus. And you can look up the requirements for priesthood. That's why it says not given to drunkenness, all these things that you shouldn't do, whether you're a Jew or a Christian.
Several things you said were awesome, but some of what you said displayed the need to be right for women. But well spoken.
Can I just interject for a quick second?
Let's get
Thank
Paris
you,
in there, too.
BK, for your input. That's exactly what I was looking for. However, if I were melanin, I would have stuck more with biology instead of the Bible, only because I feel like biology is the only leg you really have to stand on. With men, it's being in their nature, to have multiple women, because a man could impregnate 50 women in one day, but a woman can only be pregnant once. You know what I mean? Like, she can only carry one baby at a time, or for some people who carry multiple, that's a different story. But yes, I would more rely on the biology of things for you, because of all the sperm that they have and how many women they can impregnate in a day.
So
You should
that's
stand on
subject
that.
to opinion. That's subject to opinion, but this is
No,
also
that's actual
somewhat, this is
biology.
also
That's
somewhat.
biology.
I just
If
love
you
how people
know
don't
the
want me to
biology of how
interrupt,
things
but
work,
you
you
landed.
would
You
know that
landed.
men
You do not
produce
land. I'm sorry,
billions
but
of
you
sperm
landed. So
a
why are you
day.
talking when I'm
And seeing
talking?
as how
I
they
don't
produce so
understand
much
why you still
sperm,
have something to
they are
say.
able
You
to
already
impregnate more than
landed.
one
You
woman
need to be
in a
right.
single
The fact
day
that you
because
cannot be
of the
quiet and let
production
me
of their
speak
sperm.
after you
So I
already
can go
finished
ahead and land
speaking
there,
is
and you
you
can
need to be
continue to
right.
talk to
You
me
need
about
to be right.
something
You
that.
need to be right. So, like I said, because you landed. So, like I said, okay, the reason why the Bible was referenced is because of the original question asked to me. I didn't have a problem with leaving it out. So, what you're stating should be directed towards the person that asked me a two-part question.
You're not talking about me, right?
I'm not talking to you.
No, I was saying, are you talking about me? Like I was the person? I'm just making sure because I'm not sure if it was the other girl or me.
What was your question?
It was about were you using nature or the Bible?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
So
Toya, as I said, directed to the side of you.
yeah, yeah. So you're the one who used.
No,
I
it
asked you
was
this
still
whole.
directed towards you, because I was just
That's
saying that,
fine.
you could
Yeah,
use the
that's
nature
okay.
instead of the
That's
Bible
okay. That's
as a
okay.
leg to stand
Of
on.
course. I chose what I chose.
Yeah. So the reason that you can't that I don't think that you can, it's illogical to use nature in the Bible is because the Bible directly contradicts nature and teaches you not to act upon your nature.
Yeah, I
New
think
Testament, as I said.
I
No,
think that
I'm just in general. If your argument is it's in your nature, and this is why I think we should be doing it, right? The Bible directly contradicts it, and it speaks about our nature, right? It speaks about lust and all these types of things, and it directly tells you to not act upon these things.
Okay, so then are you in disagreement with the fact that it's a rich man's sport? Because I think you were the one that said that original statement, were you not?
No, that wasn't me.
Okay. So do you agree or disagree with that?
That polygamy is a rich man's sport?
That multiple women is a rich man's sport?
No, I ain't gonna say that. I get
Okay.
vicious.
Okay,
I
then
think
I'm sorry for accusing you of the original statement.
I think the challenge is that because you guys all made good points, and we can pull apart the Bible all night if you guys like, but I don't think no one wants to have that conversation, ad nauseum. People want to borrow what's good about the Bible when it benefits them, and the reality is, relationally, if you're gonna, enact your life as being a sinful person, you have no bearing to hold another person to any standard that comes directly from the Bible. Makes no sense. Being faithful is not human nature. Being faithful, and what I mean is that it always requires an alternative outward force, whether it's family, a tradition, religion, rules. If we as humans were just good people, we wouldn't have policies and laws. We wouldn't have enforcement arms. But that's not nature, right? So this is where it's always laughable to me, is that people want to slide over to the Bible and stand on something, but then want to denounce all the other stuff. Because if you want to walk that walk, even if someone cheats on you, you're supposed to forgive them 70 times 7. And even though the Bible says that you can divorce for that, it also says you can forgive and reconcile. But no one, again, wants to take that walk. So to me, it's kind of pointless that the vast majority of people do not give God his reverence, but then want to borrow faithfulness. It's laughable. It's kind of a joke. So if you're going to deal with another human, in my opinion, and you don't really have that alignment like that, be subject to understand that you're going to deal with nature. And human nature is inconsistent, selfish, and sometimes fallible. That's just facts. So figure out how to deal with the person within their level of capacity to arrive in a relationship that you think is supposed to operate a certain way. And if faithfulness is not the thing that that person can do, then find someone that can, or don't put so much heaviness on it, and just be prepared to when they let you down. Because if y'all can see, folks is getting married under the word and whatnot, and divorces is happening, and babies is coming out of left field. And so what are we really doing? I think, what are we really doing? And I'll let.